on to a series that we're all very much looking forward to, and you alluded to it before with Golden State and OKC. We have two prolific scoring teams coming face to face. Golden State obviously going for the record books, going for a championship, and OKC maybe playing for their superstar's existence, staying in the city, depending how Kevin Durant feels about this. Justin, we'll start with you here. We know what Golden State can do on a lot of levels. What does OKC need to do to win this series?
This is a really interesting series to me because OKC might have the best chance out of any team in the NBA to upset Golden State, just in general, because Kevin Durant is that kind of amazing scorer, top two scorer in the NBA that there just isn't an answer for defensively. I think it comes down to Russell Westbrook. In the regular season, these teams were very close. OKC had a legitimate case to win two of those games, and things just fell apart. But Westbrook shot below 35% from the floor and below 17% from three in that season series. He's going to need to be better than that. He's going to need to manage his shots. You obviously want him dominating the ball and testing Steph Curry, but he needs to make sure he's getting Steven Adams involved. He's getting Durant involved. He's getting their wings involved and getting Ibaka involved as well. He needs to make sure that every single person is getting touches there and play as a bit more of a floor general. But in general, he still has to be Russ. Like, you got to let Russ be Russ, but he needs to find that fine line. And if he can do that, I think they have an okay shot at possibly upsetting them.
All right, and Mark, on the other side of the ball, obviously OKC has so many weapons, and they've done this, and they've won tons of games. They won the championship last year. Curry, back-to-back MVPs. So Curry's going to be Curry, and we know this. He's a magician with the ball. He's the best shooter the game's ever seen. I kind of liken him to, a Shaquille O'Neal in terms of his dominance at his position. It's like how do you guard a guy who you can put I remember seeing that 6'9" Aminu trying to stretch out when he was like a couple feet behind the three-point line. He just couldn't touch him and just nailing from anywhere. But the key part, I think, in the playoffs is going to be who's the supporting role. So who's going to be the Robin to the Batman? So obviously, OKC is going to try to play some lockdown defense on some of these guys. Who do you see in this particular series having an excellent series between Draymond Green and Klay Thompson? Who do you think, if you had to pick one, is going to have a really stand-up series?
Well, I think Roberson is going to be guarding Steph. I think they're going to follow the Detroit model of how they had Caldwell Pope on him as a lanky swing guard on him, and I think that's going to give him a bit of trouble. So that's going to leave Klay free. Klay's going to have a big series. Draymond's going to have his hands full with, the Stash brothers and KD. I'm sure he'll be the primary defender on KD. So I think Klay's going to break out this series. And also look out for the Stash brothers getting a lot of boards. They're going to get a lot of boards unless Azili, they go big, and they tend to go small, right? Golden State, so with their death lineup. So I look forward to OKC playing kind of similar to how they played against the Spurs, going big, like Justin said, letting Russ be Russ. But I think Roberson guarding is going to be really vital, quietly so, and Klay's just going to have to be the star that he knows he is.
That's an interesting point. Now, speaking of the going small, going big, we saw when they started Steven Adams and Enes Kanter, they were able to own the offensive boards against San Antonio. But the one thing, obviously, you can take advantage of when Enes Kanter is your power forward is a bunch of pick and rolls. And when you look at Golden State, they do this all the time. Now, I'm looking at Kanter, and I think he brings a lot of talent, and he brings what he brings. But I've really seen Steven Adams grow into a player in these playoffs, and he's been quite impressive. Do you guys feel that OKC now I understand Russ is going to be Russ. Does OKC match small ball because they can play Ibaka at small ball 5, they can play Durant, they can play a lot of lineups and maybe switch between Adams and Kanter and only have one of them? Or do you think they try to replicate that offensive rebounding success, especially with a guy like Andrew Bogut out for the series? I toss this to either one of you.
I think they go big.
Yeah, I think they go big as well, and a really important X factor for this series that hasn't been talked about a lot. Draymond Green has 4 technicals and 1 flagrant, meaning if he gets 2 either technicals or flagrants in the rest of the playoffs, he gets suspended for a game. And Draymond Green, as great as Steph Curry is, Green is the one that unlocks the death lineup. He unlocks so much of what they do in the half court. And if he's gone for a game in this series or the finals, that could be a real deciding factor. Because if Bo gets hurt and Draymond Green is suspended, I'm not sure exactly what Golden State does. And I think that would be an opportunity for the Thunder to go big. So I think the Thunder try to stick with their identity to an extent. Maybe they go small whenever Golden State puts the death lineup out there. But overall, I think they need to go with what their identity is and what's been working.
Okay, so if you have to call it, I'm not saying calling it in games, just a winner for this series. Mark, are you going to stick with your OKC, or do you think?
I got to stick to my guns. I'm going to go OKC in 7.
All right, and Justin?
Man, I hope, as a Cavs fan, I hope the Thunder win, but I'm going to go with the Warriors.
Okay, and you were mentioning Draymond Green, and there's one thing I do want to mention. On top of those technicals, apparently he has been dealing with lingering injuries. We saw him hobbled in the last game.
Ankle injury.
Exactly. If this is more serious than we think, is this something that, like you said, he seems to be the linchpin, as good as all these other guys are. Let's just say because of injury, he misses 1 or 2 games. Does that switch what you think, Justin?
Yeah, then yes, then the Thunder win. Because I don't think they can win a game with how good these teams are. Without Draymond Green, I don't think the Warriors win either of those games. And I think these series are going to come right down to the wire. And the Thunder, as much as they collapse and they're their own worst enemy at times, if they get that confidence, they just roll. So if you give them that opening, if Russ smells blood in the water, Kevin Durant smells blood in the water, they're going to capitalize. So the health of Golden State is obviously huge with Bogut, with Draymond Green, and with Steph dealing with some lingering injuries as well.
On a similar note, Boris Diaw, who plays that Draymond role in San Antonio, he was useless and didn't even play in Game 6. They fell apart. I think without Draymond, it'd be the same thing for Golden State.
Absolutely. So it's going to be a good series one way or another. And let's not forget, even if he is there, we saw KD drop 40 on a healthy Kawhi Leonard. So as you said, these Sharks, when they smell blood, they can get to their prey at will. Okay.